Welcome everyone. Welcome to TechTalk Friday. And as always, in spite of the massive rain, in spite of the traffic jams, in spite of everything, we're here on Friday. It's 7-ish. And with me in the studio today is, of course, going to be joined by Karamjit Singh. Karam, welcome to TechTalk Friday, and good to have you back. And as always, Karam is going to give us his nuggets of wisdom on technology and also challenge our thinking a little bit. So, Karam, what are we going to talk about today?
I mean, I was looking at the homepage of DNA because it's a Friday. There were a lot of interesting stories today, but I will pick just some snippets from a few so that the reader straight away knows the heart of the matter, right, of the story, and then people can ask questions and all, and we can try to answer. And of course, we've got a super guest today.
So shall we start with our guest? I mean, we've got a great guest. I mean, one of the pioneering technology icons in our country. He's got brands like Friendster and MOL and all these famous Malaysian iconic brands have all been I guess associated with him. He worked with, he helped build a lot of these brands. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, looks like some comments are coming in from Facebook and LinkedIn and from other places. We value your comments. If you have any questions for Karam or for our guest Ganesh, I'm going to bring our guest in. Let's bring in Ganesh Bangah into the studio. Ganesh, welcome to TechTalk Friday and welcome to our show. Glad to have you with us.
Hi.
Good to have you.
Nice to be here.
Very good. Karam, you want to start the ball rolling and shoot some good challenging questions to get Ganesh juices running?
No, I think so. Ganesh is he still holds the record for being the and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Ganesh. Maybe somebody else is now. Records are there to be broken anyway.
Sure.
As of maybe at least of 2018, I know you were the youngest CEO of a public listed company, and I think when you went on the Bursa Malaysia called I forgot the name of the guy, but 2001, right?
No, it actually was in 2000, and I listed the company in 2003. So I hold the record. I listed the company in 2003 when I was 20 years old. So I still hold that record for one reason or another. Nobody has broken it somehow.
Not yet. But okay,
not yet.
That's great. I mean, a record like that would be good if it's broken, right? And some other young crazy kid is coming around and manages to list his company.
Yeah, I think so. Especially in today's environment, where when I entered into the, I would say the tech industry and the corporate world, it was actually very difficult because I was the youngest out there. My peers were at least 35, 40 years old, and being 20 actually was quite a challenge.
20,
to actually be recognized. Yeah. So,
wow,
Bajaya,
unbelievable.
Yeah, I actually invested in my company when I was 20, then I listed the company when I was 23. My peers were at least 35, 40 years old, right? But then in hindsight today, it's the opposite, right? Today, if you're younger, you're actually more successful and people actually want you more, right?
Yeah.
So, it wasn't easy, I think, when I started. It wasn't easy. In fact, I made myself look old so people won't guess my age.
Yeah.
Now when I'm trying to get me, I'm old. I'm trying to look younger. It's not so simple anymore.
Hey, old is relative. You're only like in your early 40s, okay? So you're not nowhere near old.
In today's tech industry, when I actually look at the new generation of entrepreneurs and I see the way they operate, I actually feel very, very old. In fact, my COO, I hired a COO last year for Commerce.Asia, and he's only 30 years old. And I actually think it's better to hire a younger COO. And in fact, in that respect, also, I prefer to invest in younger entrepreneurs because I noticed that they have the chi, right? Their energy is strong. And entrepreneurship is all about energy, right? Yeah, so I'm actually getting a bit old. My energy is not as strong as before anymore.
Understood. That's a bit scary for you to say at your young age. And coincidentally, Roshan, when he talks about energy, I was talking to this a former CEO of a listed company on Nasdaq also, but a Singaporean, and he says that, and then he became a VC. He's a VC now, and he highlighted that he likes one of his early investments, and he gave the example that he said that these three founders were always working, and even on the weekend. He said they were either in the office or they were out meeting customers and asking them about how is our product. Yep. And that comes to the energy, because the energy, Roshan, translates to just working your ass off, right? So you got to be almost 24/7, 365.
I don't think energy equals to age, because I know 90-year-old folks. I mean, not our former prime minister, but I mean personally, guys in the 80s and 90s, and the amount of energy and passion and that they exude is incredible. So I don't think it equates to age. I think the type of personality, a type of when you're passionate about something. I think, Ganesh, when you got into the technology space, it was just booming. I'm sure the energy that you exude. And in fact, even now, right? I mean, you were. I remember a year ago or 2 years ago when you were fundraising for Commerce Asia. You were there, right? With all that energy and passion. So I don't think they ever will leave you, you're going to be the man, right?
No. But talking about that, let's get to net-centric, which is what we spoke about last week, Ganesh. So interesting that Ganesh had the foresight. So Ganesh, of course, I was in New York with Ganesh on the Nasdaq when he listed in 2015, right, Ganesh? Was it 2015?
2014, October 2014.
October. And it was exciting to be there to see him, and we all thought he would end up growing the company into being a $1 billion US company and all. And it didn't happen. By the way, those listening, this is not scripted, so Ganesh doesn't know what I'm going to say. I mean, of course, I also don't know what I'm going to say, okay? So it's very spontaneous. But, the hopes were super high, but in the end, then it didn't work out that way. And then Ganesh then left MOL Global, right? And but then, and of course he did well enough that he still left with an exit where he had made some money for himself, but nowhere near what many of us thought. But since then, he has very quietly and very methodically and strategically rebuilt the next phase. This is Ganesh 3.0. We're not even looking at Ganesh 2.0. This is the Ganesh 3.0 version, and he's learned lessons from 1.0, 2.0. And now he's built commerce.com, commerce.asia very nicely as a end-to-end ecosystem. And then suddenly he went to Australia. He saw this opportunity. Of course, this is a company listed in Australia, but it's a Malaysian founder. And Ganesh said, hey, social commerce is going to be huge. And I know I'm going to take a stake. Came in with an 84% overstake of the company end of January. And now he's building that company further step by step. It's very interesting. And social commerce is becoming huge. I mean, people who follow e-commerce news will know that in China, it burst into the limelight about 2017. It became a big thing. And of course, it's going to come here. And Ganesh now is at the forefront of making sure that when it comes here, people will think of net-centric, and he's positioned very well to enable that to happen. So Ganesh, maybe talk about what the value you saw in net-centric and what made you compelled to say, okay, I'll take over the majority stake of the company. And coming to today, why you decided after about 7 months, I want to be the de facto CEO, pushing it further.
Sure. So look, I've actually always been interested in influencer marketing, because if you look at China, you'll see that influencer marketing, actually the influencers are becoming key opinion leaders, and they're starting to actually promote KOLs, right? And if you look at my e-commerce ecosystem, I have the end-to-end ecosystem from the e-commerce platform to the warehousing to the delivery platforms. But one of the things I was lacking is actually the marketing aspect. And I realized that within net-centric, they have Nafnang. It's actually the leading influencer marketing platform in Malaysia. 13,000 influencers by revenue, actually the biggest influencer marketing platform. And they have a performance marketing platform that commerce.asia was already working with. So we already have brands online, and we actually promote the products of the brands through Plata and Punta, which is the performance marketing agency within the net-centric group. And I saw that this company, the shareholders were actually not on very good terms with each other. It's public as well. They actually had a tussle between them. And because of that, the share price was languishing, right? So when I looked at it, it was actually trading at about 0.5 cent or something.
Oh, I thought
so his market cap was close. Yeah, the market cap was about three, maybe $1.5 million maybe, and it had $3 million cash in it, right? So I basically paid about a market valuation of 3.5 million, about 84% at the market valuation of $3.5 million for the company. And I actually bought both the shareholders out so that I could
Correct.
provide some stability to the company and a strategic direction that I could then work with management. And I saw, as I moved, that this could be an ecosystem that would help actually the commerce.asia business and vice versa, right? Then I started working together with management. So the management was actually doing a pretty good job in NetCentric already.
Okay.
They actually had managed from losing money. They actually, over the last couple of years, have managed to make it turn around. We just announced a half-yearly results that's actually profitable. Our core business, Naflang, actually grew something like 28%, like high 20s%. It's profitable. Our overall business grew slightly less than 10%. So the whole business actually is showing very good metrics. So the professional management that's running the business, even though the shareholders were already not involved, both are my friends, by the way, Timothy Tia and Ming Shen from Singapore. And we've actually become closer friends after I acquired the company.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Right. So, of course, Tim has been busy with Colony, which is doing extremely well on. So this wasn't as much his focus. And so I started working with the management after I bought the company, first as an advisor, seeing how they were working things, etc. There wasn't actually an effective CEO. The CFO was actually the acting CEO.
CEO.
They had this, so she was an acting CEO basically.
Okay.
And when I bought the company, I did play with the CEO to run the company. As I worked with the management, I actually became very comfortable with the management. And then I say, hey, I want to hire a CEO. You know, when you hire a CEO for businesses like this that have been operating for quite some time, you have to make sure that the CEO can work with you. You have to make sure the CEO can work with the management team, and you have to hire a good CEO. And that's always easier said than done, right?
Done, yes.
I've seen so many examples. Friendster was one of them. They hired a CEO that didn't work out that well, right? So I looked at the management and I realized I could work with the management team, and I say, hey, rather than hire a CEO, what management team really needs is strategic direction. And I saw that I could actually come in and provide some of that strategic direction. And so rather than hire a CEO, I said, why don't I come in as executive chairman, then work with the COO, work with the CFO. So I provide strategic direction. They focus on the execution and the operations. And it's actually, to be honest, what I enjoy as well. I love mentoring entrepreneurs. Of course, these are professional management, which actually has its plus points as well. Entrepreneurs don't have to listen to you all the time, but professional managers have to, right? I mean, I'm just being very honest. But this was a professional management team that actually was very experienced. Some of them, like Joanne Chen, she's one of the veterans in the digital marketing industry, who's the COO. She's a veteran in the digital marketing industry. Yeah, so they actually had a very good team already. All they need was leadership to come in, provide some stability, and provide the strategic direction. I think from the time I bought the company, when it was just about breaking even, now it's profitable. Revenue is growing faster than ever before. It was actually negative before. Now it's already positive. And then now we're trying to turn the agency now into more of a platform. And kind of what I've always loved to do all my life. I've always been building merchant-facing platforms. And so the next step is we did a joint venture. We did a joint venture between commerce.asia, because we have the e-commerce ecosystem. One of my ex-staff, my number 2 tech guy in MOL, actually developed a live commerce platform. So if you all are familiar with live commerce on Facebook, so if you see people selling fish, then you press +1, +2 to buy 1 fish, 2 fish, 3 fish. What happens in the end is that's all manually done by the person selling. Right? But so what we did is, if brand, how you in the most of the people that do that are just micro SMEs, right? So how do you engage on those sales? And so this platform actually tied into the commerce.asia ecosystem, and now that influencers actually allows them to actually allows social life seller, or if your brand will get many influencers from them to actually sell your products, and then using this platform to automate the whole process. So it actually makes it a very structured live commerce platform rather than what everybody does today, which is actually very unstructured, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what we have been focusing on. So we did that joint venture. The share price also has done pretty well over the last 6-7 months, thankfully. And so I think we are in the right direction. I'm comfortable working with the management team, and now is to take it to the next level.
So Ganesh, I guess when you talked about this turnaround that has taken place, one of the things you cite is leadership, right? I assume it'll be the your leadership and what you're doing in terms of driving that leadership, right? But I'm gonna jump into a question from one of our audience, and then I'm gonna dive into the leadership. Dato' Nora Manaf asked, for incumbent companies pursuing digital transformation, who should be in the driver's seat? The CEO, owner, or the chief digital officer equivalent in your view, Ganesh?
Okay, look, it depends on what kind of company, right? But definitely the CEO has to set the strategic direction.
Yep.
The leader, digital now is not an option. Digital now is the business.
Yep.
So you can't just leave it to a CDO to set a strategic digital direction, because digital is not an option and not a business. The CEO has to set the direction, but it doesn't mean that the execution needs to be done by him. Of course, the chief digital officer, the chief marketing officer can actually lead the digital transformation as well. We work with brands as well. So like if you've heard of this bedding brand called Alchemy, right? Alchemy is one of the brands that we actually help. We manage their end-to-end e-commerce. In fact, we took them on about late last year. Early this year, they were doing, I won't put the numbers, but over the last, I would say over the last 6 months, we've grown them about 20 times. Now, their digital transformation was led by their chief marketing officer. The chief marketing officer works very closely with us. The owner is aware of what's going on. He comes into the meetings when I attend. But when it comes to the execution, his chief marketing officer works with my chief operating officer.
Yep. But you make the point, I guess the owners need to be involved, because I've seen many transformations where the owner CEO has their own idea of what transformation looks like, and then the digital officers will go about doing something, and then it becomes a misalignment of epic proportions, and there's a lot of issues and things that crop up. So I think that's, but I want to zoom in on the leadership piece, right? Because you said you change your role to executive chairman, and you set up the leadership. The CEO can drive the business and grow the business, but there needs to be this leadership element to enable transformations to be successful. What's the secret sauce behind that leadership? I mean, what do you do? What are things that define, when you looked at it? I mean, obviously you've had occasions like in Friendster and others where it didn't sort of work out exactly how you planned, but in this case, the transformation has happened, and I think you are now Ganesh 3.0, as Karam says. What was the secret sauce behind leadership element you talk about?
Yeah, look, I just want to point out that it's not that Friendster didn't happen. By the time we bought Friendster was already an asset that actually had dropped dramatically. We didn't buy Friendster to make Friendster successful. We bought Friendster because we saw assets in Friendster that we could monetize, which we did monetize. And that asset gave us 3 times back the returns of our original investment. Of course, it could have given us 30 times, but we sold a bit poorly some shares that we got. And then the second part was we wanted to use the marketing assets that Friendster had to actually grow the MOL business. After we bought Friendster, the MOL users went 10 times. And to a certain extent, it's kind of a similar story with Navtang. Of course, Navtang is different. Navtang is very profitable, and it will continue to grow because the industry, the influencer marketing industry, is just one that's growing, right? So basically, with the Navtang acquisition, it has value in it. But at the same time, I see value that we could extract the marketing potential, the influencer potential, just like we did in Friendster, to actually help grow the commerce.asia business, and then both companies will benefit.
Prosper,
Okay.
right?
So let's zoom in on the leadership element. What specific? So that strategically, there's some clarity in terms of why you acquire assets and what's the strategic intent of how to maximize and leverage the assets.
Yep.
I get that.
Yep.
You talked about the leadership element, right? What do you define as this leadership element that's critical for success?
I think a lot of it is vision. Right.
Okay.
What keeps whether it's entrepreneurs, whether it's professional management going is the vision, right?
Yeah.
So where I see my role over my career now is it's almost, I've been doing this now for 20 years, maybe.
Yeah, 2 decades.
Yeah, actually about 20 years, right? So what I've been doing over the last 20 years always is actually provide the vision and then mentoring. Okay, at the beginning, when I first started MOL, I was quite operational. So I was actually like doing all the nitty gritty. Now I'm a lot older. I don't have the energy to handle the operations. So although actually I've invested in a lot more businesses and actually oversee quite a lot more businesses than I did 7 years ago even, right?
Yeah.
So, but today I provide the strategic direction and then I work with management to monitor the progress, mentor them on a more, I won't use the word spiritual, sometimes those spiritual level. Sometimes also the mentorship is actually a lot of times also in terms of giving motivation. Right? I'm a big believer. I've talked to Karam on this before. I actually read Vedanta a lot. In fact, yesterday I was with one of my companies, Famzy. If you heard of Famzy, the print on demand company?
Yeah.
They just hit R1 million in sales last month actually. When I invested, they were doing 60,000 ringgit. Yeah,
wow, 60,000.
And this was one company she organized Vedanta in my office. And this company actually sends all their staff to my office for the Vedanta classes. And yesterday I actually asked them, was it beneficial for you? And they said, yeah, it was very beneficial, right? So a lot of times when you invest in companies, when you mentor companies, it's not really about the business in the office. It's actually about how they grow their intellect. It's actually the higher level, how they become a better person, especially when you invest in younger entrepreneurs. Because a lot of young entrepreneurs today, they actually do not have the experience. One is their hurry. They actually don't have experience of actually professionally working in an MNC. They don't have experience of working in a large organization. All their life is working in a startup with 3, 4, 5 people. Now they've grown to 10, 20, 30 people. You need leadership skills to be taught. I don't teach leadership skills. Right? So then you have to guide them in the right direction. You have to build their intellect. You have to build their professional maturity, right? And that's actually looking a lot of the entrepreneurs today, actually. And so I kind of guide. I don't do it myself, but I guide them in the right direction sometimes, and then give them a bit of higher level kind of guidance, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Guidance, motivation, mentorship. Yeah.
Okay, we have to take a quick break, but before that, one comment when we talked about age being not a barrier, and Dato' Nara says I agree that age it's not about age, energy and a lot of things don't depend on age. Anil sort of reiterates that it's passion that drives ambition, not age, not that. And I think one comment I think at Maybank, at least the retirees we extended are within our top performers. So
have to be.
Ganesh is a young man, just like all of us, with a little bit of white hair here and there. And Karam a little bit more than me, white hair. But age is nothing lah. So we're gonna take a very short break, 30-second break, and we're gonna hear from our sponsors again, from Nicole, right? So Nicole, the super app, here in Hokkien, let's get ready for Nicole.
Jackie 啊，你有冇聽啲咧叫 app 叫 Nicole 咯
？Nicole 是什麼？
唔是啦，我教你講 app 啦嘛。嘅你看啲 Nicole 你看，依家了後真正係 article、podcast、courses 嘅啊。我教你講啊，你愛變好名，你愛好名。
愛好名啊，第啲。
你愛趁錢無？
趁這類咯。
啊，所以啊，你特別用 Nicole，做咩事？你睇啦，你看article 嘅啦，你睇啦，你變真高嘅，知無？
唔嘢無，我看啲。
有年你看啲 article 看按照好名，按照趁錢類，哇！呀，你睇，
你一日看好，你咪越嚟越高。
有啦，教你講啦嘛，你咪聽，當見你特別去看，特別看㗎了，
拍㗎了。你講你真高啦，
OK，好，你先好落嚟。
Welcome back to TechTalk Friday, and today's special guest, Ganesh Bangah. Ganesh is in the house, and Karam's also in the house. Karam, you mentioned a number of things about Ganesh and some of the brilliant stuff that he's doing in terms of driving technology forward. Tell us a bit about your thoughts, and maybe to take the questioning deeper into the technology space. I'll leave this time to you to dive into some of the things that we were talking about briefly last week also, and where you mentioned Ganesh. Go ahead.
I think when Ganesh talks about vision is one, and because Ganesh has been in the game so long, he's building an ecosystem. So ecosystem just means that you become very sticky. Okay, there's more reason for people to go to you. It's a one-stop shop where you can get all your needs met. And as life is moving much faster, much more hectic, sometimes people want that. When they, like you said, when you're looking at a fishmonger and you go +1, then the fishmonger wants to know that everything is automatically being taken care of while he does what he does best, which is sales, and catching the fish. Not sales, but catching the fish. So Ganesh understands to take away the pain point from people, but also the way he does it, because Commerce.Asia, he has actually built it through acquisitions, and he takes a stake in these companies, and sometimes not always the majority, because he wants the entrepreneurs to be invested in the future success of the company and where they play a role. So that's very interesting. Instead of him coming in to say that, hey, I'm Ganesh Bangah, I built a listed company, I've listed on NASDAQ, trust me, I'm going to take 55% and then you play a smaller role. Ganesh doesn't do that, which I find very interesting. And obviously, if you listen to him, he thinks it's important to further build up the people, and maybe because he also realized maybe the energy levels are so fine. But there's a strategic reason for him doing that, which I find interesting, because a lot of times very seasoned people can easily slip into think that I've been there, done it, just trust me, and I'll set the direction for you. He sets the direction, but he also listens as much to these people also and keeps them invested in. So there's like 10 CEOs besides him running and building the business. So while he can relax and take time off, talking to us now, these guys are out there hustling and building the business. So it's very interesting management and leadership approach, right, to building the business. And the technology, frankly, when you're in a game for as long as he has been, the technology is not a barrier, not rocket science, So if suddenly, like virtual reality, so I've got this Samsung, VR, goggles, from 3 years ago. If suddenly this becomes a key facet of, and my son took it up from the box. Okay, fine. If this becomes a key facet of the e-commerce experience, Ganesh will roll it out also. He's not going to say, oh man, we don't know how to do VR. Who do we look for, right? So honestly, don't get the fallacy that technology is a huge barrier. It's actually not. When you're seasoned in the game already, you can acquire the pieces, and you've got a bunch of technology people out there also listening and talking, right? And remember, the developments in the technology world move at real time, at the speed of thought. What goes on in Russia or in China or in Japan or in Korea or the US, within 2 days or 3 days, you or somebody in network will know about it. Hey guys, we should keep an eye on it. Let's reach out to somebody over LinkedIn. Let's talk to them. So it's not a barrier anymore. It's how fast you're going to adopt it for a business and whether you're willing to make the investments.
So quick comment from Ram, who is also a Digital 50. Middle-aged entrepreneurs like us have learned to be optimistic strategists or strategic optimists, whichever works in the life cycle of a business. That's an invaluable component of leadership. Your thoughts, Ganesh?
Yeah, okay. Maybe I'll touch a bit on what Karam said first. Then I've got a bit of comments on what Ram said, and then I'll touch a bit on my overall strategy.
Sure.
So look, the biggest difference between when I started my business 20 years ago and today is that 20 years ago, technology was the barrier. Not everybody could start an e-commerce website. Not everybody can develop an interactive application. Not everybody can develop a mobile app. So at that time, if you can develop stuff that is unique, because nobody else is developing it, not many people know how to do it, then you have a chance to succeed. But today, everybody can sell online. Everybody can program today. So when everybody can actually sell online, everybody can sell a cake online. What actually becomes the critical success factor is no longer the technology or the product, but it's actually the go-to-market strategy. So the success factor moves to actually how you take the product and move it to the market and get users to use it. Facebook today is a 3, 4, 500 billion dollar company. I don't keep track anymore for one reason or another. Not because of the social network, but because of the users that use the social network. So today, if you want to be successful in digital transformation, you have to focus on the go-to-market strategy, no longer the product itself. I think that's one, Karam, just to touch on what you said. And when Ram said that, entrepreneurs have to be strategic optimists. Being in the industry for 3 years, yes, I agree that entrepreneurs have to be optimists. By the same time, as the investor, we also have to be at a position to advise the entrepreneurs where the risks are. Because if an entrepreneur that is optimist doesn't look at the risk, that's where his failure is going to be. So the job of an entrepreneur, our job as the investor, is actually to guide the entrepreneurs to make sure they don't make the mistakes that we or other entrepreneurs that we've seen made before. So if you manage your risk and you're an optimist, then you are sure to succeed. But if you're optimist and you don't manage the risk, you have
Then
a high
you're
chance to
out
fail.
to
If you're
fail.
not optimist, also is the same time, right?
Yeah,
So I think
absolutely.
as much as you're an optimist, you also have to manage risk, right? So as an investor, my job as a mentor is to tell the entrepreneurs where they're weak and where they should manage the risk. The
Yeah.
third thing is a bit on my strategy on investing, which I kind of built over the last 15, 20 years. I was an entrepreneur first, then became an investor. And today I can sum up the strategy into three things. The first is actually when you invest, you have to make sure that you invest in an industry that's growing. Don't invest in an industry that's not growing. Because in an industry that's growing, as long as you're a player in a $10 billion that's going to a $20 billion industry, even if you're the number 2 player, you'll actually still grow with the industry. Look at e-commerce, right? E-commerce
Yeah.
over the last 3-4 years has just grown. When COVID came, it grew even more. You don't have to be the number 1 player to succeed in e-commerce. Even the number 2 player is profitable. So first is when you invest, try to invest in the industry that's growing, because as it grows, you will win together with the industry, even if you become this number 2 player. The second strategy is, of course, the people. You invest in the people, right? And that's where I always say I invest in chi. I invest in the energy of the people. So you have to make sure that you are able to work with the people. You have to make sure that people can work with you and that they have the energy to drive the business forward. Karam is right. I used to invest in majority in all the companies I've invested in. But when I started Commerce.Asia, I started with 30% so that I could get comfortable with the investors, with the entrepreneurs. So at the same time, when I invested 30% in these companies, some of the entrepreneurs came to me and that have done well and say, I want to cash out a bit. I don't mind you taking 51%. So I came up and say, sure, I'll let you cash out a bit. You get to cash out. You're comfortable with me. You know that I don't interfere in the business of your company. You get to cash out and we grow the business together. So I have taken more than 30%, even majority stakes, by invitation from the entrepreneurs, not on my own request, right? And
Once
the
trust,
thing,
once trust is
yeah,
built, I guess. No, once you build that
yes,
trust, then it's easy, right? Yeah.
yes. So I invest in 30% first so that we can build the trust, right? And the third thing that is also very important is, now when you invest in a company, there must be something that you provide to the company that makes them be more full that you didn't invest. And that's where my ecosystem strategy comes in. So I believe that with the ecosystem strategy, I can give a differentiation to my investees that they wouldn't get if I had not invested. Of course, mentorship and strategic advice and all of that is great, but everybody can get that, right? That's something you can read, etc. But the ecosystem, one example is the warehouse company that I invested in. I invested in a warehouse platform, and e-commerce warehouses actually is not, there's no barrier of entry in it, because anybody can set
It's
up
not
an e-commerce
sexy.
warehouse, develop a EWMS. So why would I invest in it? But then again, I have 61,000 merchants within our ecosystem today. If 1% of these merchants sign up for my warehouse, it's a highly profitable warehouse. So I invested in 2 young Bumiputra entrepreneurs who had a 1,000 square feet warehouse. It's called Let Me Store, 1,000 square feet warehouse in Kajang. And then within 2 years, they're now in a 20,000 square feet warehouse.
Wow.
Right? And they're growing and they're almost profitable. In fact, they would be profitable, but because they need to keep on expanding,
Reinvest. Yes.
They're not, so we have to reinvest to them grow, right? Profitable business, a great business, because nobody will invest on it just based on the warehouse. But because of the ecosystem, they have a higher chance to be a successful business. We have a higher chance of getting the returns as well. So this is kind of my ecosystem investment strategy that we've kind of built over the last
Couple of years.
from my experience over the last 5-10 years. Yeah.
So, a quick question. I think there's a question in this, I think, from Dato' Nora. Not quite in your league, but I know the feeling. I was appointed principal of a private college at 28. I also tried to look old, had my hair in a bun and we had the glasses on and so on and so forth. But this is a question many entrepreneurs have, right? They especially when you do the B2B stuff, your entrepreneurs are B2B space and you have to work with corporates. You have to look older and there's a lot of insecurity and a lot of hang-ups and so on about age, or at least beliefs. There's beliefs that age matters when it comes to doing business and so on. At 20, running a public listed company, what sort of advice would you give to some of these guys who have these same hang-ups and I'm trying to look young, but some people like Karam are trying to look old.
I'm trying to look young as well.
Karam's only 25, and look at him. He looks like 50. So what are your thoughts, Ganesh, on this?
I think it's not much the physical look or feel. It's actually more the mental maturity that's actually more important. The issue today with young entrepreneurs and the difference between a successful young entrepreneur versus the non-successful entrepreneur is actually the maturity of the intellect, right? Which is the power to judge, the power to reason, right? Many of entrepreneurs today think that read TechCrunch and think everything is sexy and it's so easy to build a business, and starting a business tomorrow you can raise millions of dollars and you'll be very successful. But that's not true, because TechCrunch just encapsulates the successes of the Silicon Valley. What about the failures of the valley? In fact, you learn more from the failures than the successes.
Yeah.
So my advice to entrepreneurs is always learn. Lifelong learning is key. Get a mentor. I was lucky that when I was younger, of course, I mean, Tan Sri Vincent Tan was a good mentor to me when I was younger, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot from him. I read a lot as well. Right? He's a good mentor. An investor can be a good mentor, right? So your investor could actually be your best mentor, especially an investor that actually has been through. I'm not just saying me, but there are a lot of successful entrepreneurs out there in Malaysia who actually make good investors because they can guide the younger entrepreneurs how to succeed. And if you ask me, between a venture capitalist, a financial venture capitalist versus a entrepreneur investor, I would choose the entrepreneur investor anytime, because the entrepreneur investor will actually be able to guide you better and advise you better than. And it's not just about financial engineering. If you build a successful business, the financial engineering will come. Too many people, when they start a business, they think about the financial engineering first. They think about the exit first and then think about how to build a business.
Yeah.
That's not the right way to do things. You have to build the business first and then the financial engineering will come. Banks will come to you when you're successful.
Absolutely. That just one more quick user, and then I'll pass the time to Karam. Another LinkedIn user, says, great point, Ganesh. Risk management, right? Many entrepreneurs struggle to turn the page on a failing business. Being able to work away is a virtue. VCs will only normally have 1 to 2 10 baggers out of a 10, investment. Your quick thoughts on that, and then Karam, I'll leave it to you. Yeah, Ganesh.
My thought on that comment. Yeah. So look. Risk management is not only about walking away from a business when it gets tough. In fact, it is when it is not walking away from a business is just as important. The only time I walked away from a business, and my success rates are actually higher than 20%, 70, 80, 90%. Wow. That 20% only when I cannot work with the entrepreneur. Right. So as long as I can work with the entrepreneur, I try not to walk away from the business. I'll continue supporting the entrepreneur, whether financially or morally, to continue working on building the business. VCs, of course, can't do that all the time because they have investors that they're accountable to. But I think the biggest reason why entrepreneurs' investment can actually be better than a VC's investment is because they will actually be backing the business and the entrepreneur when going gets tough. And that's actually the most important thing. You don't need to back an entrepreneur when his business is
going is good.
successful.
Yeah.
You actually need to back the entrepreneur when the going is
Understood.
right. And I think that yeah. Another thing about venture capitalists, I'm not out here bashing VCs. A lot of the VCs in Malaysia are my friends. It's just the nature of the industry, right?
Yeah.
The nature of the venture capital industry, and by that virtue, the nature of the tech industry is actually one of momentum investing. You invest when the momentum goes up, so that you 10 valuation to 20 million valuation, a 30 million valuation, 40 million valuation. You never invest when the going goes down. You go to a VC when the going gets down, they will run away. Why would I invest in a company that's going down? And because that valuation of companies that go down, just like NetCentric, which actually which was trading at less than cash value, the moment the going gets tough, nobody invests in it. But therein lies the opportunity. When the going gets tough, you go in and invest, have faith in it, around, turn it back to a momentum up, everybody starts going back and investing in it, right? So another aspect of investing is the contrarian approach is you invest when the going gets tough and back a company when the going gets tough, so that when the things go up again, you actually reap the benefit, right?
Nice.
Yeah, so that's kind of a contrarian view to investment that I have.
Also, based on what you say, now might be a great time, as many companies struggle with all the permutations that are happening out in the space.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah.
No, it's very enriching listening to Ganesh share this insight, and he's been in the trenches himself, and he's made mistakes, but more important is that he's been able to learn from his own mistakes also, and to have that kind of humbleness or honesty to yourself is amazing, because it's so easy to blame, I didn't do well, that guy didn't follow me, I told him to do this, or they didn't do that. It's so easy to blame. It feels like Ganesh has taken a lot of the lessons in, and now those lessons have become wisdom that when others are hearing, say, oh wow, this is interesting, this could be it. So very powerful. And you see, it's about how one gets up when they fell. So Ganesh, that was a stumble, it's not a fall, but amazing how high he would have flown if he had fallen actually. So it's a stumble only, but he's come back stronger, and he'll be even more stronger. So and Ganesh is definitely somebody to watch. And when you listen to him, it doesn't sound like you're listening to somebody who's Ganesh is only, you're 41 years old, right, Ganesh?
41, that's right.
Young man. I feel so old now.
I feel so old.
Oh, come on, guys.
No. But Ganesh feels old, Roshan, because he has been in it since a teenager. Yeah. So if I remember that, Ganesh became an entrepreneur when he's in Form 4, I think, right? Just to go back quickly, because he lived in Johor. On the weekend, he would take a bus to go over to Singapore to buy electronic components and come back and sell it to his friends in school, secondary school, because he learned arbitrage then, price arbitrage. Imagine as a 16-year-old, or maybe even 15, you already learned that. So you learn so many lessons along the way. So I think for entrepreneurs today, it would be amazing if you can get Ganesh to be a mentor to you, because he says it's important for entrepreneurs out there to get a mentor, right? And if he doesn't want to give you time, bug him until he forces to give you time, because you are so determined, right? You'll be very blessed if you get some FaceTime with him to talk about things. Let him scold you or whatever, I don't know. So, it's just amazing. So look, we've got a few more stories.
A quick question from Raj. Can you judge an entrepreneur in the first meeting? And if so, how, right? I mean, you want to take that?
Well, I guess you can judge a bit, but you actually have to look. The hardest part on determining whether a company is going to be successful or not is to see whether you can work with the entrepreneur. That's the hardest part. So sometimes you meet the entrepreneur in the first meeting, and you can know this is not a company I'm going to invest in. I met an entrepreneur that came into the meeting and say, I want you to buy my company, and then I'm going to quit the next month. So you're not going to invest in that company. There are entrepreneurs like that. So yes, that I judge at the first meeting that you can't invest, right? But
So you
then
can
there are
know
other.
lah.
So I would say 50% of the time, 50% of the entrepreneurs you can judge in the first meeting that this is not it. But the other 50% you may need to work with the person for 1, 2, 3 months. Only after investing in the person, and only when the going gets tough will you see whether he's a good entrepreneur or not. Not when the going is successful. When the going is successful, everybody is a good entrepreneur. But when the going gets tough, that's when you can judge you have a good investor or you have a good entrepreneur.
Excellent. So Ganesh, it's about 45 minutes or so. We have to get to some tech talk news also, Karam.
Sure.
So we're gonna just put you out in the studio. If there's more questions, we'll bring you back in the studio. In the meantime, we're gonna give Karam about a minute or two. Karam talks a lot, so I'm gonna manage how we give him only 2 minutes to update us on the greatest tech news, right? So thanks a lot, Ganesh. We'll see you back in a little bit, all right?
Yeah, because Ganesh can comment on some of the things also. Yeah.
We'll bring you back from the studio. Thanks a lot. Appreciate Ganesh Bangah. I mean, a technology icon who's been sharing some pearls of wisdom to us on entrepreneurship, leadership, and a whole bunch of other things. Hopefully there's more questions we can throw at him. In the meantime, Karamjit Singh, any tech updates in Southeast Asia that we need to know of and we need to be jumping on? Any new technology, chain block instead of blockchain?
Chain block, yeah.
Anything new that we need to be aware of? Your time, Karam, you got 2 minutes. I'm timing you.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, fine. So look, I think we yesterday in Penang there's this Malaysian AI company, and then the two entrepreneurs are actually Gujarati 50 in the current batch. So SkyMind, right? So the co-founders are Dr. Goh and Sean Tan. Okay, so they actually signed an MOU with USM, and the idea is to boost AI capacity in Malaysia, because Dr. Goh, who's the techie in this outfit, says that a lot of the technology leaders in companies, not the top tier in Silicon Valley, are actually Malaysian. So that gives him the confidence that the quality of Malaysian talent is very strong. And they want to come here now, and they want to build up strong AI ecosystem in the country. And a big first step they took is that they signed this MOU with USM, right, to make sure that the AI industry the talent is AI ready, for industry. And credit to USM also, the VC professor Dr. Faisal. They've decided to work with them. They're going to actually jointly do some research, and they want to embed AI into their various modules in USM. So I don't know to what extent. So that's kind of interesting, right? And then also SkyMind has opened up a campus. They bought over a building in Penang, and they're opening up as their Penang campus, and they're going to be focusing on AI a lot. So remember this company, and you can go and read the article. So the second one is the entrepreneur. Yes, Roshan?
No, go ahead. Second one.
Okay.
Sorry.
So the second one is, I think, a MSC listed company, and this entrepreneur is Bhaskar Subramanian, not Maniam, but Manian. So he's the co-founder of a company. He's actually an engineer, but he and his co-founders launched a company to do. It's an e-commerce company, but online, not e-commerce, but they're doing a payment gateway. So what happened is that when he wanted to become an entrepreneur from an engineer, they wanted to actually get the license to sell this Square credit card readers for Square. And then that didn't work, and they decided to build the platform. Their version 1 was horrible. They scrapped it, and they built another version, which now they have 100 hotels in Malaysia using it. And the hotels like the product because they say it's easy for us to work with online merchants. And what's interesting is that Bhaskar now is about to get into Indonesia, and he thanks MDEX GAIN program. Okay. So he's built the company for 6 years, Roshan. Now he's going to get into Indonesia right now as we speak. And he says he's going to give himself 1 year, after which he wants to roll out into another 2 or 3 countries. So he's a man in a hurry. He wants to learn about expanding into another country from using Indonesia and go out to a few more countries. Kind of interesting there. So you can read the article.
Okay.
And so MDEX GAIN program has helped them a lot, he said, to help them understand the local market. Okay, go ahead.
A great program and a great feeder actually and a growth catapult, I guess, for many businesses. We're going to get Ganesh back. We're going to close up the show right now. It's almost 8. So let me get Ganesh back to the studio.
Okay.
Ganesh, welcome back. I want to get your final thoughts, right? I mean, if you were to give advice to any of us, especially entrepreneurs, right, in the tech space, what sort of advice would you impart to us? What sort of nuggets of wisdom would you impart to us?
Oh my God, there's so many.
Pick one that you can do in about 1 minute 30 seconds, right? I'm timing you.
So
Also.
I think I would like to share some wisdom from the Vedas, the original scriptures in the first scriptures in the world, right? And I think what's most important is we need to continuously develop our intellect. What's our intellect? So we are body, mind, and intellect. Now, what's the difference between the mind and intellect? We always combine these two.
Correct.
The mind is actually your emotion, your worries, your desire, your fear. That's all part of the mind. Your intellect is your power to judge, reason, analyze, right? So it's very important that our intellect always controls the mind. And so we need to continuously strengthen our intellect. So the power to judge, analyze, reason. When you go through tough situations, when you're building your business, you always need to analyze what the issue is. You shouldn't be fearful. You shouldn't have too much desire, too much greed. Entrepreneurs fail because they have too much desire or they fear too much. These two causes a failure. If you can actually strengthen your intellect to control this and build your power to analyze, judge, reason, you will for sure be a successful entrepreneur. In fact, successful in everything you do. And if you fail, it's because your fear and your desire control your intellect and not the other way around.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ganesh. I think that's a very important thing as we come to the weekend. Again, we have an opportunity to use the time wisely to strengthen our intellect, right? And to be able to continue to immerse ourselves in our growth, our development, and our learning, right? So with that, Karam, final 30-second.
Final thought, yeah. For me,
Karam.
I think Dr. Nora's first question to Ganesh about, in a large company, who should lead the digital transformation initiative. And I think actually for all companies, those who have a chief digital officer, they should drop the role now. And actually every C-level position, the word digital is a given there. You're the chief operating digital officer, you're the chief executive digital officer, you're the chief supply chain officer, chief technology digital, right? All those C-levels on the digital is a layer in part of their job. And you should actually make a big statement, remove your CDO position. And every other thing is, the word digital is there. Your CMO is the chief digital marketing officer, I think that's important. So as a mindset to the organization that everything is now, digital, and you got to embrace it so that you become a winner, right? You don't want to be a loser. You don't want to be left behind. You don't want to be the Kodak of your ecosystem, as everything moves forward.
Okay, someone's crying, but Ganesh, you agree with Karam? Ganesh, you agree with Karam? Very good. So with that, it's a wrap for Tech Talk Friday. Thank you so much. With such a pleasure to have Ganesh Bangah with us today. Young man of 41 who is now transforming the
old man already.
But I disagree with you, Roshan. Ganesh is not an icon yet. He's working towards becoming that. You give people accolades too easy, okay? Let him work harder, okay? No, I don't call him an icon. No.
You to judge on the icon stuff. I mean, to me, in the last 20 years, I think there's not many people who can claim technology leadership in some way and some form. But he'll be one of those in that space. But I think the best is yet to come, right, Ganesh? There's still a long way for the best.
I hope so, but my role today may not be in the forefront as what I was 10, 15 years ago. My job now is actually to support the next generation of entrepreneurs as they succeed. If they succeed, I succeed.
Yep.
And with that, we want to say for each and every one of you, the best is yet to come. I think the journey in front of us is an exciting journey. I'm super pumped up. We in Leaderonomics, we have a bunch of technology stuff happening also. It's energized me. And so the best is always not the past. The best is always surging forward, and the best is yet to come. So with that, happy weekend, everyone. No holiday on Monday, unfortunately, like last week. So get ready to have a 2-day weekend, and we're back to the crunch on Monday. Have a great weekend, everyone. Karam, final words? Yep.
No, that's it. Everything is done. Said, have a good weekend. Be positive, right? Be energetic, and start searching to strengthen your intellect, like Ganesh said. Strengthen your intellect.
And remember, age is nothing, just a number, right? So
correct.
We think 41 is too young. So let's do it, guys. All right, all the best.
I want to go and I want to go and dye my beard, dark. But then I'm scared to go to a salon now. I may kena Nancy Pelosi, so I cannot go.
All right, never mind. All right, with that, bye bye everyone. Take care.
Bye, guys.